She told me, "My ex is still my best friend. You need to accept it." I just smiled. But weeks later, when I hooked my phone to the TV and scrolled through their chats in front of everyone, her excuses died before she could speak. There's a line. In every relationship, there's a line of respect that you just don't cross. For the past year, my girlfriend, Jessica, had been dancing on that line, doing a full-on tap routine. Her dance partner was her ex-boyfriend, a guy named Ben. Ben wasn't just an ex, he was an institution. A recurring character in our lives that I was just supposed to deal with. They had dated for 5 years before me, and according to her, their breakup was mutual and mature. So mature, in fact, that they still talked on the phone every day. They texted constantly. He was her go-to person for advice on everything from her job to her arguments with her mother, and increasingly her arguments with me. I'm not the jealous type. I have female friends. I get it. But this was different. This wasn't a friendship. It was a codependency. It was a shadow in our relationship. A third person whose opinion always seemed to matter more than mine. If I suggested a vacation spot, she'd say, "Let me run it by Ben. He's great with travel ideas." If I had a bad day at work, she'd listen for a minute, then say, "You know who would have some good advice for this? Ben." I tried to be reasonable about it. I told her it made me uncomfortable. I told her it felt like I was constantly being compared to him, that our relationship didn't have room to breathe, with him always in the middle of it. That led to the conversation that changed everything. It was about a month ago. We were in the kitchen, and it turned into another argument about him. I told her I felt like the second-string quarterback, just waiting on the sidelines. She crossed her arms, a look of hard finality on her face. "Look," she said, her voice cold. "Ben is my best friend. He has been for years, and he will be for years to come. He's not going anywhere. You need to accept it." She didn't say it was him or me. She said it was him, and I needed to get with the program. It wasn't a discussion. It was a decree. The message was clear. My feelings on the matter were irrelevant. Ben was a non-negotiable part of the package. Something inside me just went quiet. All the frustration, all the annoyance, it just solidified into a single hard thought. Okay. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked at her and smiled. It was a small, tight smile, one that didn't reach my eyes. "You're right," I said. "I do need to accept it. I'm sorry." The relief on her face was immediate. She thought she'd won. She thought she had finally beaten me into submission. "Thank you," she said, coming over to hug me. "I knew you'd understand eventually." I hugged her back, but it felt like I was hugging a stranger. Because in that moment, she was. The woman I thought I loved had just told me that her backup plan was more important than my feelings. And the man I was supposed to be, the man writing this post, had just decided to accept it. But my version of acceptance wasn't about living with it. It was about understanding the situation for what it was, and then dealing with it. The plan didn't form right away. It started as a vague idea, a need to do something more than just walk away. The key to it all, the thing that turned a vague feeling into a concrete strategy, was sitting right on our coffee table, the shared iPad. We bought it a year ago for watching movies in bed and looking up recipes. It was a household device. We were both logged into everything on it: email, social media, and most importantly, our messaging apps. Her phone messages, his phone messages, they all synced to the same apps on the iPad. She was so comfortable in her little arrangement, so sure of my compliance, that she never even thought about the digital trail she was leaving. That night, after she went to sleep, I stayed up. I picked up the iPad, I opened the messaging app, and I started to read. It was so much worse than I ever could have imagined. This wasn't a friendship. It was a running commentary on our relationship from two people who clearly had zero respect for me. They mocked me. They mocked my job, my friends, the way I dressed. Ben would give her advice on how to handle me, how to phrase things to get what she wanted. They shared inside jokes at my expense. He was a puppeteer, and she was his willing marionette. I scrolled back for months. It was all there. Every time she had told me a little white lie, it was in the chat. The night she said she was working late, she was having drinks with him. The weekend she said she was visiting her sick aunt, they went on a day trip to the coast. But the worst part, the part that made my blood run cold, was the plan. It was all laid out in their messages. Ben was waiting on a big promotion at his job. Once it came through, he was planning to buy a condo, and once he was settled, Jessica was going to leave me and move in with him. They talked about it openly. Just another 6 months of dealing with him, one of his messages read. Then we can finally be done with this. My role in her life was a placeholder. I was a convenient boyfriend, a warm body, and a financial contributor until her real partner was ready. My apartment was their waiting room. I didn't get angry. The feeling was much colder, much heavier. It was a feeling of profound betrayal. I put the iPad down. I went to the window and looked out at the city lights. My 2-year relationship was a complete lie, a long con, and I was the mark. A quiet breakup wouldn't be enough. Walking away would let them win. They would just move on with their plan, laughing about the fool they had played. No. A betrayal this deep didn't deserve a quiet ending. It deserved to be seen. It deserved an audience. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I just needed to be patient. I needed to let them get comfortable. I needed to wait for the perfect moment. And while I waited, I would keep reading. I would gather every piece of evidence. I would learn every detail of their deception. And when the time was right, I would turn their private little world inside out for everyone to see. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since I discovered the truth on the iPad. Living this double life has been the hardest thing I've ever done. On the outside, I've been the perfect, accepting boyfriend. I stopped bringing up Ben. When Jessica mentioned him, I'd just nod and smile. I played my part so well that she actually relaxed. She got comfortable. And that's exactly what I wanted. Every night, I'd wait for her to fall asleep, and then I'd go into the living room and read the latest chapter of my own betrayal. The iPad became my secret window into her real life. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash, and I was the only one who knew it was about to happen. The chats continued to be a goldmine of disrespect. They had nicknames for me. My favorite was the landlord, because I owned the apartment we lived in. "How's the landlord's mood today?" Ben would ask. "He's fine," she'd reply. "A little mopey, but he'll get over it. At least he's paying the bills." I saw them plan a weekend trip to a wine-tasting festival. A trip she told me was a work retreat. I watched them pick out a hotel, a fancy one with a couple's spa package. She used the credit card I had given her for emergencies to book the room. I took a screenshot of the booking confirmation and the chat where she laughed with Ben about how I was funding their romantic getaway. The most painful part was seeing them talk about my family. My younger sister got engaged a couple of weeks ago. I was thrilled for her. When I told Jessica, she seemed happy for me. But that night, I read her conversation with Ben. "Jessica, his sister is getting married. Now I'm going to have to pretend to be excited for a whole year. Ugh, the whole family is so boringly wholesome. You deserve better than a lifetime of picket fences and golden retrievers. Don't I know it? Just a few more months." Reading that broke something inside me that I didn't know was still intact. They weren't just disrespecting me, they were disrespecting my entire family. That's when my plan went from a general idea to a specific, targeted event. The perfect opportunity presented itself last week. My birthday is coming up. Jessica, in her role as the loving girlfriend, insisted on throwing me a big surprise party. Of course it wasn't a surprise. She told me she was planning a small dinner with a few friends, but I read the group chat she created with her friends and mine to plan the party. And who was the co-organizer, the one helping her with every detail? Ben, of course. The irony was so thick I could choke on it. They were planning a party to celebrate me in my own home, all while secretly plotting the end of our relationship. It was the perfect stage. All our friends, my family, her family, they would all be there. So I started to prepare. I needed the evidence to be undeniable and easy to display. Screenshots were good, but I wanted something more dynamic, more real. I used a screen recording app on the iPad to capture long, scrolling videos of their conversations. I edited them into a single 10-minute video, a greatest hits of their deceit. I started the video with their early conversations, the ones where they were just casually making fun of me. I moved on to the lies, placing her texts to me side by side with her texts to him, showing the blatant contradictions. The work retreat was a highlight. I included the credit card statement showing the charge for the fancy hotel. I included their discussions about my family. And I ended with the grand finale, their detailed plan to be together, complete with timelines and discussions about what furniture she would take from my apartment. The final message in the video was Ben's. "Don't worry. Once my promotion comes through, you can finally drop the landlord and move in with me. It'll be epic." I saved the video file to my phone. I bought a simple adapter that would let connect my phone to my big screen TV. I also did some financial housekeeping. I went to my bank and removed Jessica from my credit card account. I opened a new checking account and had my paycheck redirected there. I transferred enough money to our joint account to cover the next month's bills, and not a penny more. I started quietly moving my personal valuables, family heirlooms, important documents, into a safe deposit box. I was preparing for the aftermath. Jessica has been running around all week, planning my surprise party. She's so excited. She keeps telling me how much fun it's going to be and how much she loves me. She's a fantastic liar. Every time she smiles at me, I just smile back, thinking about the video on my phone. She thinks she's throwing a party for me. She has no idea she's planning her own public execution. The guests have all RSVP'd. The food has been ordered. The stage is set, and I'm ready for the show to begin. Final update. The party was last night. I'm sitting here now in the quiet of my apartment, and the silence is deafeningly beautiful. It's the sound of a chapter of my life not just closing, but being slammed shut, locked, and set on fire. The surprise was, of course, not a surprise. I walked in the door at 7:30 p.m. sharp, and about 50 people jumped out and yelled, "Surprise!" I did my best impression of a shocked and happy guy. I hugged Jessica, who was beaming. "I can't believe you did all this," I said, looking her right in the eye. She just smiled. "Only the best for my birthday boy." Ben was standing right behind her, a smug little grin on his face, like he was the co-host of the year. He clapped me on the shoulder. "Happy birthday, man." "Thanks, Ben," I said. "Couldn't have done it without you." The double meaning was completely lost on them. The party was in full swing for about 2 hours. I mingled. I talked to my friends, my family, her parents. Everyone was happy. It was the perfect picture of a perfect life, all a complete and utter lie. The moment came around 9:30 p.m. Jessica gathered everyone in the living room. "Okay, everyone. I'd like to make a toast to the most wonderful man I know." She gave a beautiful speech. She talked about how much I meant to her, how supportive I was, how she couldn't imagine her life without me. It was a performance worthy of an Oscar. People were tearing up. My own mother was dabbing her eyes with a napkin. When she was done, everyone cheered. She turned to me, her eyes sparkling. "Your turn." I smiled and stood up. "Wow," I said, my voice full of fake emotion. "Thank you, honey. That was beautiful." I looked around the room at all the smiling faces. It means so much to have all of you here, our friends and family, to celebrate with us. And Jessica is right. Our relationship is built on a foundation of honesty and trust. I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Nerves? Guilt? Probably just excitement. "And speaking of our relationship," I continued, pulling my phone out of my pocket, "Jessica and I have been putting together a little slideshow of our favorite memories from the past year. We wanted to share it with all of you. It's just a little look into our life together." She looked confused. "A slideshow?" "We didn't." "I wanted it to be a surprise for you too," I said, cutting her off with a smile. I walked over to the TV and plugged the adapter into my phone. "It'll just take a second." The TV screen flickered, and then my phone's home screen appeared. Everyone in the room was watching, expecting to see happy vacation photos. Ben was standing by the fireplace, a proprietary arm around Jessica's shoulders. They were both smiling. I opened my photo gallery and clicked on the video file. I turned the volume all the way up. The video started. The first thing on the screen was a text from her. "Love you so much. Can't wait to see you tonight." Dated 3 months ago. Then, right next to it, a message to Ben from the same day. "Have to cancel. The landlord is being clingy. Ugh." A confused murmur went through the room. Jessica's smile froze on her face. Ben's arm dropped from her shoulder. I didn't say a word. I just let it play. The screen filled with their texts, scrolling slowly, my calm voiceover occasionally reading a particularly juicy line. The work retreat section got a few gasps. I showed the hotel booking, their flirty texts about the spa, and then the credit card statement with my name on it. I heard her mother make a little choking sound. Then came the texts about my family. When the part about my sister's engagement came on screen, with Ben calling my family boringly wholesome, I saw my dad stand up a little straighter, his face like thunder. The final 2 minutes of the video were just their unfiltered plans. Their conversations about him getting a promotion, her leaving me, what stuff she would take from my apartment. It ended with that final, damning text from Ben. "Don't worry, once my promotion comes through you can finally drop the landlord and move in with me." It'll be epic. The video ended. The screen went black. For about 10 seconds, the only sound in the apartment was the hum of the refrigerator. It was the most complete and total silence I have ever heard. Then all hell broke loose. Jessica just stood there, her face completely white, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Ben looked like he had been physically struck. Her dad walked over to her and just said in a low, shaking voice, "What did you do?" People started talking at once. Friends were looking at them with disgust. My family was looking at me with a mixture of shock and fierce pride. Jessica finally found her voice. She turned to me, tears welling up in her eyes. "How could you?" she whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "This is private? You can't just..." "Private?" I said, my voice cutting through the noise. The room went silent again. "You thought this was private? Your plan to use me for 2 years? The lies? The disrespect to my family? You didn't think I had a right to know what was happening in my own home with my own money?" I looked from her to Ben. "This wasn't a mistake. It was a conspiracy, and you both got caught." Ben tried to say something, some kind of defense. "Dude, it wasn't like that." My best friend Mark stepped forward. "It wasn't like what, man? We all just saw it. We heard it. Just shut up." The party was over. People started leaving, avoiding looking at Jessica and Ben as they filed out. Her parents took her into the kitchen, and I could hear her dad yelling at her in a low, furious voice. I spent the next hour talking to my friends and family, who were all incredibly supportive. When I finally walked back into the living room, it was almost empty. The only people left were me, my best friend Mark, and Ben, who was just standing there looking lost. "You need to leave," I told him. He just shook his head. "You ruined my life." "No," I said. "You did. You and her. You just thought you were going to get away with it. You didn't." He left. I haven't seen or heard from him since. Jessica's dad came out of the kitchen. He looked 100 years old. "She'll be out by tomorrow," he said, not looking at me. "I'm sorry." And that was it. She came the next day with her mom while I was out. They took her things. She left her key on the counter. She tried calling me a few times over the next week from blocked numbers. I never answered. The aftermath has been a clean sweep. She lost everything. Her parents are apparently barely speaking to her. Most of her friends, horrified by what they saw, have cut her off. And Ben? I heard through the grapevine that he didn't get that promotion. Someone at his company, a mutual acquaintance, saw the story and a clip of the video that someone at the party had secretly recorded. The clip made its way to his bosses. They're a big conservative company. They don't like that kind of drama or that kind of character. So his career, the very thing their whole plan was based on, is stalled. They blew up their own lives, all because they thought I was too stupid or too weak to notice.